Every morning I go to the Supreme Court of India with one thing in mind. I am not just entering a building, I am entering the arena where the fate of the Republic is shaped, word by word, argument by argument. I am Amod Bidhuri and I was not born to file papers. I was born to raise the sword of law for dharma, for Bharat, for every citizen whose voice is lost in the noise. You see, there is a lie floating around that lawyers are just service providers, that we are meant to quietly advise, negotiate, and argue. But history says otherwise. From Gandhi in South Africa to Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly, from Lincoln in his letters to Mandela in his cell, lawyers have always been the strategic backbone of nation states. We are not clerks of procedure, we are architects of civilization. But today, somewhere, something broke. The Blackrobe became a symbol of status, not sacrifice. Law became content, not consciousness. And courtrooms began to feel like theatres, not temples of justice. And we, the warriors of the Constitution, allowed this drift. We chased LinkedIn applause while the soul of Bharat begged for protection. But not anymore, not here, not now. We are building a new breed of legal minds, not just lawyers, but spiritual warriors in black robes. Every word, a weapon, every petition a prayer, every cross-examination a yagna for justice. That's why I built Blackrobe Maven, not just to practice law, but to protect it, to live as a constitutional Kshatriya, where every hearing is sacred, every draft strategic. My fire doesn't come from ambition, it comes from dharma, the sense that I was sent here with role to serve the nation, not flatter the system, to challenge decay, not adjust with it. I do not walk into court to argue, I walk in to restore, and I carry my father's honesty like a shastra in my heart. To every lawyer watching this, you were not born to be average, you were born to lead hearings that will be remembered in history books. You were born to whisper to the Constitution and make it roar. This is not a job, this is a legacy. This is not a career, it's a calling. So when I say the role of lawyer in nation rebuilding, I'm not speaking academically. I'm speaking like a man building a fortress from inside out. A man who reads every article like scripture and treats every hearing like the final battle before collapse or resurrection. And this is just the beginning. Because before we rebuild the nation, we must first reclaim our role in it, not as servants of law, but as its sovereign protectors. Let's begin. In every era of upheaval, when a nation teetered on the edge of collapse or rebirth, it was often a lawyer who stepped forward, not with weapons but with words, not with violence but with vision. Das Karamchand Gandhi, trained at the Inner Temple in London, began his career, a legal career in South Africa. There he faced racial discrimination firsthand, notably when he was ejected from a train for refusing to move from a whites-only compartment. This incident became a catalyst for his development of Satyagraha, a philosophy of non-violent resistance. Gandhi's legal background provided him with the tools to challenge unjust laws systematically, leading mass movements that ultimately contributed to India's independence. Let's talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the architect of social justice. Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, born into a marginalized Dalit family, rose to become a formidable legal scholar and the principal architect of the Indian Constitution. As the chairman of the drafting committee, he ensured the inclusion of provisions that abolished untouchability and prohibited discrimination, laying the foundation for a more equitable society. Ambedkar's legal acumen was instrumental in framing laws that aim to dismantle centuries-old social hierarchies. Let's talk about Abraham Lincoln, the lawyer who preserved the nation called America. Before becoming the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln was a self-taught lawyer, known for his clarity of thought and persuasive arguments. His legal career honed his skills in reasoning and public speaking, which he later employed to navigate the nation through its civil war. Lincoln's commitment to the principles of liberty and equality was evident in his legal and political efforts to abolish slavery and preserve the Union. Next, let's talk about Nelson Mandela, the legal advocate for freedom. Nelson Mandela began his journey, his professional life as a lawyer in Johannesburg. co-founding South Africa's first black law firm. His legal work exposed him to the systematic injustices of apartheid, fueling his activism. Mandela's legal background empowered him to articulate the grievances of the oppressed and to negotiate effectively during South Africa's transition from apartheid to democracy. Let's talk about common threads, law as a tool for transformation. What unites these figures is their use of legal knowledge as a means to challenge and change oppressive systems. They exemplify how a deep understanding of the law can be harnessed to advocate for justice, equality, and national transformation. So what's the role of lawyers? Lawyers continue to play a crucial role in nation building, whether it's through public interest litigation, policy advocacy, or defending human rights. The legal profession remains at the forefront of societal change, emulating the dedication and courage of Gandhi, Ambedkar, Lincoln, and Mandela. Modern lawyers are called upon to uphold justice and contribute to the ongoing project of nation building. As we reflect on these legal luminaries, we recognize that the mantle of nation building now rests upon our shoulders. The path they paved serves as both inspiration and a call for action for today's legal professionals. We will delve into the current changes facing our legal system. The courtroom is not just where the justice is done. It is where the character of the nation is tested every single day. You see, in ancient Bharat, sabhas and samitis were sacred spaces. Debates weren't just about who was right, but about what was right. Today, the courtroom must return to that level of dignity. It must be more than a battlefield of egos. It must become the akhada of the character, because the law doesn't just shape the case, it shapes the citizen. Let's call the courtroom what it really is, a theatre of integrity. When a judge enters, we all rise, not for the individual, but for the institution. But what good is standing if we stoop in spirit? Every lie told, every adjournment manipulated, every technicality exploited, chips away at our national spine. When we make the courtroom about winning rather than about truth, we train an entire generation to believe that justice is a strategy, not a value. The lawyer's body language is the Republic's testament and temperament. Have you ever watched yourself argue? Your posture, your tone, your words, they become a reflection of the Republic's temperament. Are you calm in fire or erratic in pressure? Do you shout or do you persuade? In that moment, you are not just an advocate. You are performing the personality of Bharat. And what you show is what millions imitate. The relationship between the bench and the bar is sacred. It's not transaction. It is not a fight. It is not a status competition. It is a sambandh, a constitutional relationship where the judge and the lawyer co-create justice. We are not adversaries, we are co-pilots. When mutual respect decays, the soul of justice begins to rot. Language, humility, and oral advocacy as a national performance. Our legal English today feels foreign, but advocacy should feel like a conversation with Bharat's soul. Speak in legal terms, yes, but speak to the judge like he is your conscience. Speak to the petitioner like they are your family. Speak to the nation as if history is recording you, because it is. Advocacy is an act of humility. You don't just speak to win, you speak to heal. Let's make a practical call. Let's reclaim the courtroom as a temple from tomorrow. Let's make a shift. Stand like it's a sacred ground. Speak like it's your last argument. Prepare like the future of India depends on your note, because it does. Every bail order, every interim stay, every PIL, every trial cross, it's all part of civilizational narrative. The courtroom is not your office, it's the Republic's last refuge. Treat it that way. Ask ourselves, not how many cases have we won, but how much character have we shown. There comes a moment when a lawyer must step beyond litigation, beyond files and footnotes, to rise not as a technician of law, but as a strategist of the nation's future. Law is a think tank in human form. A true lawyer is not just a litigator. He is a walking policy brain. He is India's crisis manager, India's silent intellectual vanguard. We forget many revolutions were not led by politicians, but by lawyers. Why? Because we are trained to think in structure, argue in logic, and act under pressure. That is the DNA of a nation builder. But the tragedy today is we have reduced the lawyer to a case handler. The solution: step up. Be more than a file walker. Be a force that advises ministries, political parties, constitutional benches, and even future prime ministers. Ask yourself, can your chamber become a mini nation building cell? Every advisory note, every constitutional brief, every writ petition should aim to heal the state, not just fix a loophole. We don't need more forms, we need strategic legal sanctuaries that restore the republic one argument at a time. Imagine your chamber like a dharmic war room where politics, law, culture and sovereignty meet. Where law is not just interpreted but reimagined. You must always speak where law is absent. There are places where no law reaches. A displaced community, a village waiting for compensation, a media narrative twisting facts, a student silenced for asking questions. Who must go there? The politician. He is constrained. The bureaucrat. He is bound. The media, often sold. Only one person stands free and trained in justice: the lawyer. Speak there, write there, fight there. That's where the true battle for the constitution is fought. Not always in air-conditioned courtrooms, but in India's wounded spaces. Because legal mindset is the strategic mindset. Most lawyers think practically. How do I win this case? How do I out-argue the other side? But that's a soldier's mindset. You must think like a general. Ask, how can this PIL and alter policy across states? How can this interpretation influence executive behavior? How can my argument today shape jurisprudence for the next 50 years? Strategy is not manipulation. It's vision in action. Be a legal visionary. Your writing must shape the nation's brain. Have you written something this year that made India think? A note that changed how judges interpret a right? A column that questioned lazy governance? A white paper that became a law? A speech that went viral not for controversy, but for clarity? If not, you are not yet a constitutional force, you are a courtroom technician. But write even one more masterful brief, one bold legal doctrine, and you enter the bloodstream of the republic. That is how real leaders are made: in silence, in thought, in conviction. What should the modern India lawyer become? Not just a litigating professional, but a public intellectual, a moral strategist, a nation mentor. Before India had a written constitution, she had dharma. Before there were articles, they were rishis, and long before law degrees, there were men and women who upheld the cosmic order. This section is not just about being a lawyer, it is about becoming a dharmic constitutionalist, a guardian of both law and truth. So what do you mean by dharmic constitutionalist? A dharmic constitutionalist is not someone who quotes Sanskrit in court. He is someone who understands that the soul of law is moral order. While the constitution is explicit, dharma is subtle. But both want the same thing: justice without delay, power without corruption, freedom with responsibility, governance with compassion. To walk this bridge, you must study both the constitution and the Shastras. You must read Ambedkar and Kautilya, Tilak and Manu, Gandhi and the Gita. Your foundation must be dual, rigorous and sacred. So don't be a secular technician, be a moral architect. Today most lawyers are secular technicians. They know the CRPC, CPC, IPC or BNS, BNSS, etc. But they have no North Star. Their strategy has no soul. Their victories have no vibration. But if you study dharma, not as a ritual, but as a meta law, you will find yourself saying, I will not just file a case, I will create a precedent that realigns state power with people's dignity. That is moral engineering, not litigation. And India desperately needs that today. How dharma can guide legal interpretation? Let me give you 3 examples. Bail jurisprudence. Dharma says, assume innocence unless harm is proven. Apply it. You reform the judicial system. Environmental law. Dharma says, land is sacred, rivers are mothers. Bring this language into Article 21. You create reverence-based litigation. AI and technology. Dharma says, use knowledge without ego, invent without destruction. Bring this to digital rights. You are now 10 years ahead of the West. This is not religious posturing. This is civilizational guidance. You must become the new Dharma Sutri. You must always ask, What is the inner dignity of a citizen? What is the responsibility of a judge to the unborn future? How do I architect law so it protects the nation's soul? These are not case questions. These are civilizational questions. And only a dharmic constitutionalist can answer them. Not the media, not the market, not the political class. Only a lawyer who has read the Vedas, studied the constitution and walked among the people. To become that person, start with this daily code. Read one constitution provision deeply, not just read, meditate on its origin and spirit. Read one sutra or verse from the Gita, Manusmriti or Arthashastra, cross-link into the modern governance. Write one paragraph per day that blends both worlds. This becomes your doctrine. Engage one citizen or student daily, not to lecture but to listen. Live with restraint, speak with thunder, move like law, but strike like dharma. This is not religion, this is soulful legal strategy. India is entering a new phase and you have to prepare for it. Old laws will collapse, old structures will mutate, courts will be flooded with crises we have never imagined. Only a dharmic constitutionalist can hold the thread. You can be that force. You can be the mind of the constitution and the heart of the Bharat merged. There comes a time in every lawyer's journey when fighting cases is not enough. When you are called to shape minds, not just arguments, to become not just a litigator but a mentor, a guardian, a builder of the republic. Lawyer as a nation's elder brother. In Bharat, we used to have the concept of Rajguru, the one who stood next to the king, not for power, but for vision, not to dominate, but to guide. As a lawyer, your role is not just to win briefs, it is to mentor the future bench, to train young minds in the dharma of law, to warn institutions when they drift, and to speak truth to the power without fear, without arrogance. This is what I call being the elder brother of the republic. Why India needs legal mentors now? Let me ask you. Who is mentoring the thousands of law graduates every year? They are thrown into the courtroom with no moral compass, no professional training, no ritual of orientation into what law really is. They only cram books and they know nothing about the court tactics. What happens next? They copy strategies from television. They turn the court into a theatre. They get sucked into the vortex of survival, not service. We are producing technicians, not torch bearers. This is our responsibility. If you have practiced for more than 10 years, you just must mentor at least 5 young lawyers every year, not for income, but for nation building. Let's create a republic building code. Let me give you 5 steps to embody this role. Adopt a junior like a guru adopts a shishya. Give them your time, not just your task. Create a constitution diary. Annotate how each article applies in real life. Share it with students. Host one public lecture per month, not on law but on constitutional culture. Build a bench of thinkers. Don't just train people to argue. Train them to think, to write, to advise. Protect institutions with your voice. If parliament goes astray, speak. If judiciary weakens, raise the alarm. Do not be silent. Silence is betrayal. This is your dharma. This is not optional. The 3 chakras of guardian lawyer. To be the guardian of the republic, you must activate 3 chakras. Madhya chakra. Speak not to impress. Speak to shift direction. Speak when it costs you. Second is Vidya chakra. Read daily, interpret freshly, connect law with culture. Be a scholar warrior. Karma chakra. Take responsibility for real problems. Delay, access to justice, elite capture, build real solutions, draft real reforms. Each chakra aligns your words, wisdoms and willpower to the national need. So I will tell you about the Blackrobe standard. In Blackrobe Maven, my law firm, we are building this culture. We don't just file briefs, we breed warriors. We host constitutional symposiums. We engage policymakers directly. We prepare for court, but we fight for the future. Every lawyer watching this, you can do this too. Start your own platform. Be your own institution. Stand tall as a mentor, mind and mirror to this republic. You are not just a legal practitioner, you are a nation shaper. If I fall in the courtroom, let me fall facing the constitution. If I rise in this country, let me rise with my juniors. If I speak, let it be thunder that clears the fog of apathy. This is not idealism. This is the only realism that survives in a nation like Bharat. When you step into a courtroom, you are not merely arguing. You are engaging in civilized warfare. And in war, you don't just need knowledge, you need precision, presence and power. This section is about the battlefield preparation, where your voice becomes your weapon, your body becomes your statement, and your intention becomes your edge. Every great lawyer is not just a reader of the books, they are the reader of the room. Know when to argue, know what not to argue, know which bench to address and how. Precision is knowing that a single well-placed sentence can win a case. Don't pour your research, distill your insight. Always build your case around a narrative spine, not random citations. Example, in a fundamental rights matter, don't just cite precedents. Build a moral story. This is a matter not just of law. My lord, it is a question of the soul of the republic. Then plug in the judgments to support your moral claim. This is warcraft. Legal strategy aligns with ethical drama. Your courtroom energy is 60% of your effectiveness. You walk into court with gravity, not gimmicks. You must cultivate what I call legal aura. Calm, not slow. Intense, not aggressive. Firm, not loud. Focused, not frantic. Your presence teaches the judge that you are not here to perform. You are here to participate in the ritual of justice. When the bench respects your mental discipline, they begin to trust your intention behind every word. This is why I train like a warrior, mentally, physically, vocally, not because the court demands it, but because dharma does. Your voice must cut through silence like a blade. This is not about volume. This is about vak siddhi, mastery over your voice. Here's how I train. I recite important case names like mantra. Slowly, repeatedly, I strengthen my diaphragm because control over breath is control over impact. I deliver speeches alone, imagining 5 judges before me until my voice becomes undistractable. In court, I don't shout. I cut through noise by crafting silence with conviction. Power is not dominance. Power is clarity that cannot be ignored. In the new India, courts are watching, media is watching, public is also watching. You must rise above the chaos. Don't fight for headlines, fight for jurisprudence. Let your drafting be masterwork. Let your voice be unforgettable. This is what I call Blackrobe warfare, where you wear the robe not for status but for strategy. When I enter the Supreme Court, I don't just enter as a lawyer, I enter as a citizen soldier. I carry the weight of those whose voices are muted. I carry the vision of the Constitution. I carry the responsibility of making law sacred again. You too can live with like this, speak like a sage, think like a king, move like a warrior, argue like a son of Bharat Mata. This is the time to rise as a courtroom strategist, a republic guardian, and the voice that restores power to law and soul to governance. Now let's talk about why a lawyer must think 100 years ahead. In a nation of short-term noise, the true lawyer must think in centuries. Law is not about today's victory, it's about tomorrow's civilization. In this final act of the courtroom drama, we rise above the transactional and enter the territory of legacy. The judgments you win, the cases you shape, the arguments you record will echo far beyond your career. They will sculpt how India thinks, feels and governs for the next 100 years. Understand this, you are not just a litigator, you are a constitution maker. Most lawyers live case to case, great lawyers think era to era. Each time you go to the court on an Article 14, Article 21 or federalism issue, you are not just arguing law, you are adding another stone to the foundation of Indian state. So ask yourself, will this submission uphold the dignity of citizens 50 years from now? Will this argument help future courts think more clearly? Will this case become part of India's modern history? Because that is what really matters. Being a lawyer whose footprint becomes doctrine. The real impact of a lawyer is not in their bank balance. It's in their footnotes of judgments, in the language judges begin to use, in the philosophies that silently become default. Your submissions can plant seeds of doctrines. Basic structure was a seed. Submissive constitutionalism was a seed. Process in Indian terms is still a garden waiting for water. Plant something eternal. Build thought, not just practice. A sovereign legal voice doesn't just practice, it produces thought. Write judgments that never got written. Deliver lectures that seed revolutions. Mentor juniors who will outshine you. Turn every pleading into a public philosophy. Lawyers, don't think beyond the courtroom. Politics will fill the vacuum and our democracy will decay. You are not just rebuilding law, you are rebuilding dharma. Let me say this without hesitation. India doesn't just need more lawyers. India needs more law sages, men and women of the robe, rooted in Bharat's soul, trained in the fire of courtroom war, who carry a century-long torch of ethical statecraft. This is why I built Blackrobe Maven, not just as a chamber, but as a thinking court, a school of statecraft, a legacy engine for constitutional warriors. Become a custodian, not just a commentator. You who are watching this, maybe you are a student, maybe a lawyer, maybe a public servant. Just ask yourself, are you here to pass time or pass laws? Are you here to perform in courts or perform for the republic? Are you here to win cases or win the respect of history? One day, your name may not be remembered, but if your work made a citizen freer, a government more just, you have already rebuilt our nation. Let's stop being participants in a broken system. Let's become architects of a new one. Your legacy begins in your next submission. Nation begins with your next decision. So, be the lawyer Bharat remembers when it rebuilds itself. Every great lawyer is a mentor in disguise. The highest duty of a lawyer isn't just to win cases, it is to raise those who will win when you are gone. The courtroom may remember your voice, but the nation will remember your legacy only if it multiplies through others. In India's civilizational story, Guru Shishya is not a sentiment, it is the engine of civilization. If you have survived 10 years of litigation, you owe 5 years of that time to someone else's growth. This is how we create sovereign legal lineages, not just firms. Train not just lawyers, but legal strategists of Bharat. Let's be honest. Today we are overproducing willers and underproducing nation shapers. Your juniors must learn how to think beyond precedent, how to speak like constitutional warriors, how to defend India not just in law but in spirit. Teach them how to argue a PIL like a dharma protector, not a press agent. Draft writs like they are crafting future textbooks. Carry themselves with a sovereign demeanor, not bureaucratic compliance. Don't train employees. Build guardians of the republic. Now let's talk about what I'm building and why it's bigger than me. I did not name my chamber Blackrobe Maven for branding. I named it because I believe India deserves an elite class of legal sages, rooted in ancient fire, trained in modern warfare, and loyal only to dharma and the constitution. Blackrobe Maven is not a firm, it is a future bloodline of constitutional mentors. Our mission is simple: shape sovereign lawyers, train fearless voices, build minds that will anchor India's next 100 years. We are creating a new species of council, the Strategic Council of Bharat. Mentorship is not about teaching, it's about transmission. True legal mentorship is tapasya. You don't teach juniors only by lecturing. You teach them through your conduct in court, through how you prepare at midnight, through how you walk into a courtroom with silence and destroy with one paragraph. Your very presence should be syllabus. Let your junior become better than you. Let your wisdom become a stream, not a monument. Final lesson: plant trees under whose shade you will never sit. Legacy is not built in headlines, it is built in discipline, obscurity and transmission. Lawyer who shapes India will never be loudest on Twitter, never be the darling of cocktail circuits, but will be remembered by those who fought with him and rose through him. Build juniors who one day challenge you. That's how you know you succeeded. My ode to the legal future of India. Let me speak to every law student, junior, dreamer, frustrated counsel watching this. You are not a mistake in the system. You are a future author of Indian story. If this 1 hour session ignited something in you, then your real journey begins today. Build stamina, build mind, build constitutional imagination. build courage to stand alone, and long enough to lead. I, Amod Bidhuri, an advocate, son of Bharat, and student of Dharma, commit to training, guiding, and building the sovereign legal, political warriors of the next century. Let the nation remember not just your arguments, but that because of you, justice survived, Dharma evolved, and India stood taller. If you like this video, and please like this video, comment I will build the republic, share this with one law student or aspirant, follow Blackrobe Maven, and subscribe to the next hearing. Because you are not here to file petitions, you are here to rebuild civilizations. And let's rebuild it together. Thank you.